normally use them?
It being a P and Z meeting, do they need the desktop, or is that? The desktop. Or is that just for like zoning cases? Not for this meeting. Yeah. They don't need budget. Is that for special master meeting? Something. Yeah.
This is the Lake County Board of County Commissioners regular meeting on November 4th, 2025 in Board Chambers, Administrative Building, Tavares, Florida.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our November 4th, 2025 Lake County Board of County Commissioners meeting. And we're going to start our meeting today with our invocation, which will be given by Rabbi Solomon of the Traditional Congregation of Mount Dora. And then if you'll remain standing, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Avinu Av Rahman, our Father, merciful Father, who grants salvation to kings and dominion to princes, whose kingdom is eternal and unbounded, who graciously endows man with knowledge, who teaches mortal man understanding, for with God is wisdom and understanding. Recall for us this day the covenant you made with Noah, that destruction will never come from God's hands, and that each of us are equally the children of Noah, no one better lineage than his neighbor, equally in the image of God, with absolute freedom and the responsibilities thereby. And so may God bless, guard, protect, and help all the leaders of government, the President of the United States, the Governor of Florida, the Lake County Manager, and these commissioners. Graciously grant to them knowledge, understanding, and discernment. May the Supreme King of Kings, in his mercy, preserve them in life, deliver them from hurt and all trouble. May the Supreme King of Kings, in his mercy, inspire them and all their counselors with benevolence to do good towards all that is in their charge. May this be his will, and we say amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Rabbi. All right, agenda update. Jennifer Barker, County Manager.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. There are no updates to today's agenda.
All right, then moving along to minutes approval, we have September 23rd, 2025 minutes to approve. Mr. Cooney.
Good morning. I have just that one set of minutes for your approval today.
All right.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, that passes unanimously. Moving on then to citizen question and comment period. We have zoning cases, so cards that have been received for zoning cases will come up at that time. And then I believe I have two, Katrina Nicolais and then Cindy Newton on public comment, and then we'll check what we have online. And just to let everyone know, it's a 3-minute period of time. We ask everyone to adhere to that. A buzzer will go off, and so we ask that you'll wrap it up at that point. And if you're online, you're going to need to press the *9 button to virtually raise your hand, and then click the raise hand button to let us know you're ready to speak. All right, so let's start with Katrina.
I know this isn't on your agenda today, but I really needed to speak up and say something. My name is Katrina Knuckles, and I live at 30835 Sunnydale Street in Sorrento, or Mount Plymouth. Last Sunday, our house was flooded from the flash floods. We had 4 inches of water in our home, 14 inches of water in our yard. Back in 2012, we came to you, Leslie, to solve a problem that we were fearing that was going to happen, and now it has happened. Our road, we live on a non-county maintained road, and I'm sorry that I'm so emotional about this. We live on a non-county maintained road, and we came to you in 2012. We showed you pictures. We showed you everything of the damage that the water is doing to our road. We asked for help then for a special assessment to get our roads paved. And you, Leslie, wanted the community support. We were the only one that got flooded this last weekend. So now we are having to pick up the pieces and take care of our house. I'm not asking for government help. With that, I'm asking for a solution for the drainage in our home or around our house. You have allowed another subdivision to come in and build on the old Mount Plymouth golf course. They have done nothing but bring truckloads and truckloads and truckloads of dirt out. And it has flowed into other people's property and flooded. Our home, where we sit, you guys, last year, December of 2024, and I understand if a ambulance gets stuck or a fire truck gets stuck, you have to do something, which is what happened. But what the county did was brought in 10 truckloads and just put us back in a deeper hole. And I am tired of it. Something has to give. So I encourage you to put this on your agenda and try to find a solution. Make everybody pay a special assessment and get the road paved. There is no reason why we should have any non-county maintained roads in Lake County, Florida, at all. There's my piece. Thank you.
And I'm going to at least try to address a few things. And first of all, tell you that I'm really sorry that you're going through that. And I can at least try to give a little context to the special assessment process. The reason why my response would have been that we have to have community support is that we're not allowed by law to assess other people to pay for things if, okay, and I just want to, I'd just like to set the record straight, but we're not going to go back and forth. We literally can't assess people on a road unless they participate. And I'll ask if the county attorney could at least talk about that a little bit, because it's not a decision I personally made. It's a decision that I have to follow the rules and the procedures and the policies.
Correct. In order to bring a non-county maintained road into the maintenance system, even if it's publicly dedicated, it has to meet minimum widths. So what has to happen for a special assessment under our current code is that 80% of the property owners who own 80% of the frontage of the road that's going to be paved has to sign the petition. That petition then comes to the Public Works Department. They verify that there's a minimum 50-foot width. If there's not a minimum 50-foot width, then we have to go back to those property owners, and they would have to deed enough width to have 50 feet. 50 feet is necessary in order to do the paving and accommodate for the drainage. Otherwise, when you pave it, all that drainage is going to run off onto the adjoining property owners. This is an old plat. There may be 50 feet there, I'm not sure. But if we can get 80% of the owners to sign that petition, it then comes to the board for a public hearing, and at that point, the board would determine how much of the assessment the board is willing to fund. The code allows you to fund up to 50% of the assessment, and then the remaining 50% would then be just parceled out, usually by lot frontage on the road, to the remaining property owners. If those property owners don't pay that assessment amount within 30 days of being invoiced, it then goes on their tax bill, and it becomes part of their tax assessment for a maximum of up to 10 years. So that is the process that we have. We cannot legally just go in and pave a road if it's not currently in the county maintenance system. And again, we have to make sure it has sufficient right-of-way width. This has been a problem with these old plats because this is the Mount Plymouth area, so I think this was a 1912 plat. Roads were typically not brought into county maintenance back in those timeframes. We have a similar issue with Astor as well, which was a 1918 plat, and folks up there that would like their roads brought into the maintenance system. So that is the process that we currently have available for special assessments.
And I can certainly say, because a lot of these old plats are in District 4, in my perfect world, there would be no unmaintained roads in Lake County. But we know what it costs to pave the roads that, and manage and maintain the roads that are in the maintenance system. So as we go forward and have discussions about, those roads, I think that we need to continue to look at ways that we can address non-maintained roads. It's just that it's a monumental financially. It's, we know that like our capital improvement program, if we were to get all of our roads capital needs up to snuff, it would be like somewhere in the $800 million range, and that's in the maintenance system. So if you add all of the unmaintained roads that are dirt roads and clay roads or any combination of, semi-paved millings roads, you're talking millions and millions of dollars. So I wish it was an easier fix, but I would ask, since we have Bobby's here, if Bobby could go out and take a look at this particular location and brainstorm with the hydrologist and the engineers and just see if there's something other than a full paving of the road, some other drainage improvement that could be used to try to convey water so that it's not going into their home.
In this, on the special assessment topic, I mean, have we explored that? I mean, that's, obviously, me and Tim are new here, so like, is that something that comes up once in a while?
Yeah.
Because I'm totally, I mean, they seem like they're open-minded, maybe the neighbors are. Obviously, with everything that's happened in the last 30 days, there might be a lot of interest in it. Maybe we, I mean, I don't, is there
Well,
something we want to explore?
We're getting asked a lot about it.
Yeah, it's
So-
just there's
so
no
current-
funding in it right now, as I understand it.
Currently, there are 4 projects submitted for special assessments. They have not completed their petition numbers, but even if they were to complete, get the 80% of the folks to sign to move it forward, there's currently no funding for any special assessment program. So it would be up to the board. You would have to allocate some amount of funding, whether in the past, you've talked about maybe adding 1 project per district per year and some set amount of funding. But those are things that you would have to decide as a policy decision. And then if you were to do it that way, then you would have to rank those projects and decide which one would get funded.
And when you say get funded, I mean, the assessments are future assessments, so you're talking about, we have limited dollars now versus the future.
Correct. So the way the assessment works is the county upfronts the payment to do the work, and then whatever percentage gets passed along to the residents usually gets divided on their tax bill for up to 10 years.
That's 50%, so we pay 50% upfront capital cost.
You can choose, you pay 100,
I mean, but they'll pay 50 over the time.
well, that's your discretion. You can do up to 50%. So there may be some situations where property owners agree to pay 100%, or you pay 25%, but you can do, per the code, up to 50%, where you pay that out of general fund money.
I'm very in favor of exploring that option. Also, generally, I think I respect the super high 80% threshold, but we don't, I mean, that's our code, that, none of that is statute, right? That's all 100% code
No.
ordinances.
Correct. You could change that. It
was just recently changed.
That was recently changed, and the reason for that is because at the time it was changed, there was the idea that people did not want to, we did not want to force people to pay an assessment if majority or slightly less than majority did not want the road paved. There are people that do not want to be on county-maintained roads.
Yes, so it moved to 80 from what number?
I believe it was 51%.
51,
I get
and
why 51 is controversial, but 80 is like ridiculously high. I think it should be like a 60 or something.
And just because you haven't been in those hearings, you will get the 20%, for example, that will come in, and they will literally be in tears that they do not want to be forced to pay something that they are, they're being forced by the government to pay. So it gets very emotional. So, the only other option is you create a priority list and you just start working down the list, and you're using the rest of all of the taxpayers of Lake County to put improvements in areas that people purchased homes that didn't have those improvements to begin with. So that gets extremely controversial.
I totally agree, and I can see that. I don't want to go way off on a tangent here, but I'm just curious, is there anything in the law right now that when somebody buys a home, that they have noticed, other than their own due diligence, just that the road in front of their house has no government entity maintaining it whatsoever? I mean, is that something that anywhere in law?
It's a due diligence issue. You can tell from the road signs that are up.
Yeah.
If it's county-maintained, the road signs are a certain color, have county logo on it. If they're unmaintained, I think they're typically white and will say unmaintained. If you have no road sign, it's probably not county-maintained. Dirt roads such as these are typically not county-maintained. So, I mean, there are things that would give somebody the indication that they're not county-maintained, but no, there's nothing legally that requires a seller to disclose whether it's maintained or not. It's a due diligence issue.
And I don't know, is there some other step the county could go to make it even more clear? I mean, if somebody doesn't, if you get a title search and there's something recorded that says this is an unmaintained plat or something like that, I mean, it's just a really, these are really difficult
It's a
situations.
unique problem. But I'm totally open-minded to special assessment and allowing that to go forward, especially in these really precarious, really dangerous situations. So
Well, keep in mind, we also have how many miles worth of clay roads that are county maintained that also need to, at some point.
Yeah, I've got a bunch up in Carlton Village area.
A lot in District 3, too.
And we get complaints about those, and that is a maintenance cost over the years. It probably would have paid for itself by now if they'd been
And
paved.
probably that's what, part of that 700 million that we were talking about, that we're behind on?
No, that's not in there.
That's not in there at all?
No.
No, that's not even in there.
No, so you
But
have
but
your.
the 700, but it would free up money that we could do that? Correct. Okay.
And
Yeah.
and Madam Chairman, just again, obviously, I'm not an engineer, but just looking at the plat, because it is an old plat, there's no place to put stormwater ponds, short of buying out residents and creating stormwater ponds. So that's the other thing the hydrologist in Public Works would have to determine, is if they did go in there and they could do something with the drainage, where is the water going to go? Because it would have to be pumped or conveyed somewhere. Obviously, we can't convey it to somebody else's private property, so that's another issue with these old plats. It's another issue with Astor as well.
Yeah, one of the ideas I had in Astor was that if we had homes that repeatedly flooded, that maybe we could seek FEMA grants if they were willing to, have those properties purchased by the county, and then we could use those lots for retention areas. But that would take time to do. That wouldn't be like an overnight fix, but you'd have to have people that were willing to participate. Okay, all right. Let's see, we have Cindy Newton. And if the Knuckles would want to go out into the atrium, would Bobby perhaps be willing to go, or Jordan, or someone from engineering that could have a conversation with them and maybe set up a time to go out to the property? If you're willing to talk to them? Cindy?
Good morning, Cindy Newton, District 4. I've been looking into some of the flooded areas, and I've been mapping some of them. One of the common denominators in most of these areas is the failure of the retention ponds, and what it also appears to be poorly designed systems and unmaintained systems. I was in Leesburg when Sunday's rain began, and on the drive home, Eustis's streets were already compromised with water intrusion. Now elevated development on Orange Avenue was already flooding out an entire intersection. Most retention ponds were already full, and fields were holding water. When I got to Estes Road, which I live off of, water was across it in one normal spot that always has water holding on it. But there was a new one, and it was a new development being built. When I got down to it, the water was rushing out of that subdivision because it's been elevated quite a bit, down the road and flooding out Estes Road, going out in both directions into a county unincorporated property, and also a fairly new development that's on the other side of it that's also city. So since my property is affected by this one with the retention ponds to the northwest, I drove up in there to look at the retention ponds, see how they were doing, because it was one that I opposed. The retention pond on the south side wasn't even covered on the bottom. The retention pond on the north had 2 to 3 inches of rain in it. When I got home, I looked at my rain gauge, 5 inches of rain had fallen. So all this compromise was happening far before we got 19 inches of rain. We need to do better. Some state agencies, are changing regulatory requirements. These appear to fall into 3 main areas, and the rules are more restrictive. Existing ERPs are exempt from the changes. Projects will require larger stormwater facilities, more land, more robust filter systems that remove nitrogen and phosphorus. I expect more changes to be coming as well. the counties and the cities can begin to rewrite the regulations for this because some are already coming on board. Some of these changes only go into effect when the St. John's permits are adopted. So you've still got time, even with some of the developments that have been approved, to be able to go ahead and make some of these changes on these properties. But the cities and the counties are going to have to work together on this. And I'm also hoping that we can put more of a better implement of how to maintain these ponds. So thank you for your time.
And we have one more card, just before we move to the next card, just a couple comments, and we can talk about this later. I was going to bring it up under my report, and we can elaborate more, but we have already talked about the fact that we were going to move forward with some modifications, workshop on drainage and so forth in floodplains, even though Senate Bill 180 has not been amended to allow us to make new regulations. But we would get those in place, and then hopefully the amendment to that Senate bill will be made, and then we'll be able to implement. But the one thing that I keep coming back to is the idea that stormwater management should take into account surrounding conditions in the entire basin, basically. And what, if you've got extreme conditions like slopes, that should be a part of a design. And right now, it kind of feels like it's a one-size-fits-all, and even though the water management district rules have been enhanced to accommodate retention for a 500-year storm, it's these off-site conditions that seem to be what is ignored under current regulations, and maybe Commissioner Parks can elaborate more on that, but it just seems like, especially in like Mount Dora, Eustis, Sorrento, we have these extreme slopes. I know you have that in South Lake County as well. And if you're not taking into account things like that, the velocity of the water coming off of other properties that are older developed properties that don't have retention, all of those things go into play. And then ultimately the cumulative effects on downstream properties. It just doesn't seem to be what our water management rules in the state of Florida address now. And I just think Lake County ought to take the lead. And I think this is the perfect time for the cities to be willing to sign on to a county-wide ordinance that both cities and county use the same regulations.
Yeah, I was going to say that the new stormwater criteria, which actually takes effect December 28th, some of that's applicable now, though, to some of the new projects that are coming through, depending upon when they submitted, which is a huge step up for both quantity and quality of treatment and stormwater systems. But part of it also is, and we're bringing this has come up at Florida Association of Counties, as well as some of the environmental permitting networks, is HOAs, the failure of HOAs in a lot of cases. Many HOAs never budget for reserves, so they don't have enough money much to take care of the roads, much less a stormwater system that will blow out at some point if it's not maintained properly. So there's that issue to address. But to your point, I think we could go above and beyond, particularly in some of the areas where you have some of the higher slopes, and it depends kind of on the soils and how much runoff there is, but maybe looking at some of those areas to keep more open for storage and these freak storm events that we seem to be getting more of now. So, yeah, that's something we should definitely look at as soon as possible, I think. Yeah, good.
Yeah, the whole HOA maintenance issue is front and center over near my house and Cindy's house, where the neighborhood had the bridge that's failed, and that was an HOA, infrastructure, although the county or the city has a force main and a water main there, and electricity that runs through that area. So they're having to figure out how to work together, the fact that you've got private infrastructure that's owned by the HOA, and then you've got city public infrastructure that's intertwined. So, yeah, and I've just read some things about, the maintenance side of it, that it might have been the result of the fact that it wasn't being maintained. Now, I always thought the Water Management District was on top of that, was the entity that checked to make sure these things were being maintained.
I mean, there's only so many of them, so no, I mean, imagine thousands and thousands of HOAs that have these systems they're supposed to maintain. I mean, they may audit, I don't know the procedures internally, but maybe they pick a few out, but there's only so many of them as well, so.
I'll tell you what concerns me is, you take Treasure Trove, for example. I mean, we got involved in that, and there is an issue there.
Yeah.
So, you look at St. John's, like, they are the ones that are gonna bless everything, and they've looked at everything. I'm concerned they're not. So I hate to say it, but we need to hire somebody like Devo to look at every project that goes on to see if it's done right or wrong, because I know we don't have staff, and we rely on St. John's to do it. So that is a concern of mine.
And that's where I think enhanced requirements would come into play.
Totally.
Because then you would know that you've taken it a step beyond what the state of Florida is requiring.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The enhanced, I know we're going to talk about this at a workshop, but I'm fully supportive of the enhanced criteria. Floodplains analysis, what areas might flood, go back to historical areas, you'll see places that were flooded in the 40s and 50s and are completely dry now. Let's go, just, we did this last year, I think we looked at it once, but let's continue to do that and enhance the criteria on top of St. John's, yeah.
And we got to remember that we have the Lake County Water Authority, who is also now over our stormwater, so maybe they can pitch in and use some of their funding to take care of some of this, and maybe even use their personnel to check and make sure that our retention ponds are up to snuff.
That's a good source, that's countywide.
Okay, Charlie Wolkoff? There you go. You're up. Is this for the zoning case, though? Or, okay, we'll have to wait till we get to zoning. All right, but it doesn't say which one, but I'm thinking it's got to be number 4. Number 4, okay. All right, do we have anyone online? Okay, moving along then. We have our clerk of court's consent agenda.
Good morning again. I have 3 items on my consent agenda for your approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, passes 5-0. Moving then to the county commission consent agenda, tab 3 through 6. Do we have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. That passes unanimously. Moving then to our public hearings and rezonings. When we get to each case, I'll ask whether anyone has had ex parte communications that they need to disclose for purposes of the record.
You want to do that on each case or on all of them?
I guess we can go ahead and do disclosures right now, because we don't have anything on consent. Everything looks to be on regular agenda. So do you want to go through them?
I haven't had any ex parte with any of these cases.
I've had some ex parte contact via email on opposition.
All right, I have not had any.
I have not had any, Crescent Pines, I've received some emails and responded to one or two. I got a handful last night that I didn't get a chance to respond to yet, but that's been my only communication on that case.
I think we're all getting
Yeah.
emails, so.
Yeah.
Those are in the record. Commissioner,
Nothing outside the record.
okay. All right, Mike Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, good morning. For the record, Mike Fitzgerald, I'm the Office of Planning and Zoning Director. We have 4 items on our agenda today. We have future land use rezoning, conditional use permit, and an additional rezoning. These items have been advertised in accordance with Florida statute. And I'm happy to open the meeting with the first agenda item. This
Can I
is...
just say one thing at the beginning of this?
Yes, sir.
I remember this one quite well. I'm thinking maybe if we just say what's changed or whatever, it would probably be quicker.
Yes, sir. I'll
Okay, I didn't know if you
quickly
guys
as
were
I
the same
can.
way. I feel like this just was in front of us. That's why I feel like we don't need a full bird's eye versus, what changed between now and last meeting, 2 meetings ago.
So in the interest of speed, agenda items 1 and 2 are companion ordinances for a future land use change and rezoning. First agenda item is to amend the future land use on approximately 12 acres from rural to industrial. This item was approved unanimously by the Planning and Zoning Board. The location is 26034 County Road 448. This is to facilitate the development of a 40,000 square foot warehouse, 8,000 square foot truck shop, 2,000 square foot office, and a truck yard. The board may recall that this was before the board previously, and a request was made for the applicant to verify that the traffic assessment was correct. They have submitted a traffic analysis stating that there is a de minimis impact. That's the change. They're saying 34 trips AM peak, 30 trips PM peak hour. And the rezoning is a rezoning of 12 acres from agriculture to planned industrial district to facilitate this development.
So I'm the one that was harping on the traffic impact for a stage 1 traffic impact study on it. I'm glad that they went ahead and did it. I know that this area is all slated for industrial, even down Jones Road. It's all industrial up and down the area. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, and I don't see any cards, just making sure that we don't have anyone on this tab 1 and tab 2 here. If you're here for that, would you raise your hand? Okay, all right.
Discussion. This is a perfect example of, with the wetlands on here, that we really need to make sure that they have the storage capacity that they need.
And at this point, they will have to comply with the St. Johns River Water Management rules. And as of December, those will be enhanced to 500-year storm. Not sure if they're moving, how quickly they're moving along, but I couldn't agree with you more. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving then to tab 3. This is the tower case.
Did we do 1 and 2 together? Is that what we did?
I thought we did. Did we not do 1 and 2 together? I
Presented
thought-
1 and 2 together.
Perfect. Just making sure.
Yeah, that's the way I understood the motion in the second.
Perfect, thanks.
Next agenda item is FL 1878 Leesburg Tower Conditional Use Permit. The requested action is a conditional use permit on approximately 12.62 acres for a 154-foot monopine communication tower with a waiver request to the land development regulations to allow the proposed tower to be constructed off-center within the boundaries of the parent parcel. The Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval. The location is southwest of Forest Lake Road and Eagle Point Court in the unincorporated Leesburg area. The concept plan depicts the placement of the lease area compound to be located approximately 59 feet from the western boundary line, with the tower itself to be a minimum of 100 feet from the western boundary line. 6,400 square foot lease area will require an access utility easement and a 20-foot wide gravel access drive, and the access will need some enhancement to the easement that is existing. Proposed construction will be outside of the flood hazard area. The fire department had no objection to this proposal. The proposal is consistent with setbacks and separation between towers. Lake County Fire Station is located 1.17 miles from the subject property. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe the applicant is here as well.
All right, any questions for staff? And I believe this is the applicant's representative.
Good morning. I'm Mantanaya John, 935 Main Street, Suite C4, Safety Harbor, Florida, 34695. And just as a bit of housekeeping, I did submit a PowerPoint presentation over before, and I also have a copy on hand if that's not handy.
I don't believe we have a PowerPoint. Do you have a USB?
I do have a copy on USB.
Okay, we can load it up for you, but I apologize.
Commissioners, I apologize for the delay. If I do sound rushed today, it's because I know that you do have a full agenda, so I will try to move as quickly as possible while covering all my bases. So as you heard, I come before you today with Planning and Zoning Board recommendation of approval for a conditional use to construct a 150-foot tall monopine style communication tower. And that's on parcel 12, 19, 25, 001, 000, 45, or 47500. And this property is wooded lands. The actual conditional use is fairly bread and butter because we're not asking for any variances. We are asking for one waiver, though. That is to move the tower to the northwest portion of the property, which moves it away from existing homes. So your future land use designation, or your zoning is R6, and I've applied a purple arrow to where the communication tower would be. You can see to the north there is a future subdivision that would be constructed. There are no existing houses in that direction for quite some distance. It's to the east towards the lake where there's existing houses that we're being sensitive to. Even once constructed, this will take and meet the required separation that would be applicable to non-camouflage communication towers. So we are observing a higher standard than is actually applicable to this project. Future land use designation is urban low. This is a monopine style communication tower. Some of you may have seen this before. This is a structure that is engineered to support a canopy of branches. And then within those branches, you have a head frame supporting antennas. Those antennas are painted green and covered with socks. Once upon a time, we used to do flagpoles, but unfortunately, those are so small, there's no airflow and the antennas can't operate anymore. This is an aerial just showing the parent parcel. You can see it is wooded, and I'll be zooming in closer. You can also see the existing development. To the west is Water Authority-owned land. This is as we get in closer, and then closer. And we're actually in the clearing, that small clearing on the western side, next to what appears to have been an old cattle pond. As you can see to the south from the canopy changes, I keep wanting to use this pointer and you would never be able to see it. I apologize for that. But you can see that it moves to wetlands as you move further south and center. This is just sheet Z1A from the plans showing the overlay, and it just shows the site. It shows the tower in the northwest corner of the parent parcel. The monopine will be designed per your code to be shared. That prevents that limits the overall number of towers in the community and in the county, because that way you don't end up with something where you have a T-Mobile tower, a Verizon tower, an AT&T tower. Similarly, your code requires us to show that there are no existing towers that currently exist that we can co-locate upon that can be shared. We've submitted an RF record or RF packet in the record showing that there are no tall structures or communication towers available. And as you can see, the purple arrows where T-Mobile will be. They're co-located at the top. There's 3 teal arrows below. Those are the co-locations they'll be designed for. The base will be fenced and secured. I have photo simulations. My first one is from Goose Creek looking south. You can see that the monopine takes contextual cues from the surrounding canopy and works quite well with that. Then we have Tropical Islands looking southwest. You can see it's completely obscured. Eagle Point Court looking west about almost 1,600 feet away, completely obscured by the pine canopy. And then Golden Tree Drive looking west, and you can see it's tucked into that pine canopy. This is the RF package on file, and this shows T-Mobile's coverage. Green is reliable and yellow is unreliable. And basically, this is just like building out, the cellular industry faces the same challenge that our local governments face as more people move to Florida. We need more cellular network to support the traffic, just like how we're always struggling with road networks and such. And that's what this is. So you can see that it provides coverage down along, primarily to our residential areas to the east. This is also your Planning and Zoning Board. We had some members of the public who commented about experienced connection strength. So we thought this would be helpful just for the public's edification and for everyone. This is a measured signal map showing the actual strength from the devices connecting to T-Mobile's network in the area. And this actually includes a tower that was added in the Grand Island area recently, and we didn't have that data in time for the October meeting. You can see that in the northeast corner, and you can see we still don't have that green reliable signal strength. The red is unreliable. And that just shows traffic density. I would remind everyone that the cellular network is part of Florida's E911 system. So this serves an important public purpose as an essential service. Down in Orange County, roughly 89% of all 911 calls, I might be thinking Hillsborough County, come from wireless numbers. So with that, I am available for any questions that you may have. I also have Jason Pauley with T-Mobile available should you have any questions about T-Mobile's need. And I reserve time for rebuttal. Thank you.
All right, anybody have questions at this point? We just have one speaker card, and this is Gary Weepking.
Good morning. My name is Gary Weepking. I live at 160 Formosa Island Road, Leesburg, Florida, 34788. I have one question to the applicant. I Googled recently, and I've talked to a few people in regards to the distance that a tower should be from a residence. I heard maybe 1,600 feet. I'm not sure that she had mentioned. But 1,640 feet, if you Google it, is what they recommend as a safe distance. That's been a concern a lot of the neighbors in the community itself, is the distance. And I think that should be taken in consideration. Most of these towers that I've seen in the past are usually on a main highway or not necessarily right into a community itself. That's a pretty rural area, as you could see on the map. And that was another point. I'm not sure if they did a wildlife survey or study or an environmental to find out, because there's a lot of wildlife in that area, not only bears, but there's been a Florida panther that's been seen, and we've got plenty of gopher turtles. I'm not sure if they've done anything with the wildlife. I looked at their package and I didn't see anything. So that's a good concern. I did talk to a biologist with FWC that handles the gopher tortoises, and he said he's not heard from them. So those are questions that I have that I hope you folks would consider as well. Thank you.
All right, you want to make any responses and answer any other questions?
Absolutely. Matt and I, John again. Just to start off, as a point of housekeeping, I would be remiss if I did not put into the record the Telecom Act of 1996, which basically says that decisions about communication towers cannot be made based on any perceived environmental effects of RF emissions. Our questions at the local government level is, does T-Mobile comply with the FCC, which Mr. Pauley, I apologize, I could use more coffee at this point. He testified back in October that T-Mobile does comply with FCC requirements. He also testified, for the purpose of the public's edification, that the public is safe at the compound fence. Anyways, moving on to other items such as environmental impacts. Of course, this land is zoned R6, so it's not conservation land. It could be developed. But getting to things like gopher tortoises, that's something that will come up in your site plan review. Your environmental staff will go through, and I'm currently working with them on a site plan for a tower off of Hall Road. And your staff has been very zealous over the past year and a half that we've been going through your site plan review. So I'd respectfully submit that's a question that's proper for site plan review. At our level, I would respectfully submit that we do meet all the requirements of your land development code and that the use is proper to vest upon the property, and I would ask you to approve this. I am available for any questions that you may have, and again, Mr. Pauley is available for any questions.
Just one question. You had mentioned before about the waiver location was to get it further away from homes, or was it, because our rule would be center of the property, or is the reason you're doing that because that's where your uplands are located, or what's the basis for that location?
Matt Tenaya, John again. And it is a mix of trying to stay away from existing houses, right? Because they were there first, so trying to show sensitivity, but it also avoids wetlands. So, and this particular spot has the additional benefit of being an already cleared spot. We can go cut down trees if there's a different location that the county would prefer, but it just happens to all work together where we're being.
Yeah, I was impressed with those pictures that show it in relation to the trees, and it's probably the first time I've ever seen a tower
Blended, right?
blended, yeah, that it actually blended and it worked. Yeah, it looks like a real tree. So I thought that was, that's certainly beneficial in this context.
Thank you.
All right, we don't, what's that do? Oh, we have someone online. Thank you.
Yes, we do have one online. Last name is Jensen. You should be able to unmute your mic. Please state your name for the record and then give your comments to the board.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. My name is Lisette Jensen. I'm in District 3. I apologize for not being there in person. I'm actually currently in bed sick, but this was very important to me, so I still was able to log in. I was also in opposition for this tower along with Mr. Gary. There's some things that the applicant mentioned but didn't continue to mention fully. The FCC law that she mentioned was based on 1996, based on a study that was done in 1982. So the safety standards that were imposed from 1982, you would have to think that our technology has come a long way. So those are outdated and should not, while they do say that we cannot regulate best and environmental, there is a small stipulation there that does allow local government to be able to dictate the distance where it is built, the location, and the like. So we are not, or you all are not powerless and your hands are not bound. You can dictate certain things to regulate the placement, construction, and modification of the proposed tower, and to demand compliance with regulations related to historic preservation, endangered species, and natural resource protection. I am quite disappointed that the applicant did not pursue the wildlife thing, because that is a big concern. One endangered species or protected species that has not been mentioned is bald eagles. We have bald eagles in the vicinity, and bald eagles, as you all know, are a protected species. That we have regulations, sorry, I sound all funny, that state that bald eagles or gold eagles cannot be taken. And by taken, they mean pursue, shoot at, poison, wound, kill, capture, trap, collect, molest, or disturb. And disturb is further defined as agitated or bother a bald or golden eagle to a degree that causes or is likely to cause, based on the best scientific information available, injury to an eagle, decrease in its productivity by substantially interfering with normal breeding, feeding, and sheltering behavior, or nest abandonment by substantially interfering with normal breeding, feeding, or sheltering behavior. The definition also covers the effects that results from human-induced alterations like this, initiated around a previously used nest site. So, for example, the bald eagles aren't there right now, but it could cause them to not come back to their nest. That is not allowed. It would be a violation of the act. On top of that, the safety, I don't know if you guys remember me, I was there to oppose the R2 to R6. Our water supply, even though it says that the firefighters have not opposed this, our fire hydrants, because U.S. water is actually not in compliance by the Department of Environmental Protection with upkeeping the water source resources to us. The closest fire hydrant would be on Eagle Court, but they do not have a backup generator. They do not have all the necessary things that needs to be done to properly service that. So if this were to fall and go into flames, because it is surrounded by forested area, it would impose a lot of danger to the residents of Golden Tree and Eagle Court, because like I mentioned before, we have one in and one out to our neighborhood. If this were to caught fire, and it were to block us off, that could be very dangerous. And we have a chief, retired fire chief in our neighborhood that has stated this, because especially with the wildfires that we had in California, and we've had throughout here in Florida. I know this year there was some drought. That is something to consider, because we want to make sure that our safety is ensured. We have children, we have elderly people here. It's not a 55 plus residential community in Golden Tree and Eagle Court. We have young families with young children. On top of the health concerns, the World Health Organization and multiple safety things have recommended the 500-meter distance from homes, or 1,640 feet. I know that also property values can be altered, and there's all these things that need to be taken into consideration. So I would call for you guys to please postpone this so that those studies can be done, so we can have more reassurance. From the location where T-Mobile was specifying, the closest house is
Okay, I'm going to need to cut you off. The buzzard went off, and we were trying to ring it one more time, but we appreciate your comments. We've just got to adhere to our rule consistently.
So, Madam Chairman, if I can just interject for a minute. I know the issue of wildlife permits, environmental permits, those things have come up by the residents today, but I just want to remind the board that under 125.022, the county cannot require, as a condition of processing or issuing a development permit or order, that an applicant obtain a permit or approval from any state or federal agency. So that is not something you can take into consideration today.
It doesn't say they won't have to get their permits. It just means that we can't.
We cannot make them get it before we issue an
a
order,
permit.
correct?
Okay. Okay, all right. Any rebuttal, and then we'll wrap it up.
So Matt and I, John, again, of course, I would draw your attention back to the Telecom Act. The FCC did reevaluate its safety guidelines in 2020. I don't have the rule number memorized, but they sustained their safety standards, because underneath all of this, these are FM walkie-talkies. They just have computers strapped to them. Water supply, the monopine is designed with fall zone technology, so it's a steel structure. There's not a whole lot of flammable going on there, and it's also within a compound that is traffic signal sized cabinets on concrete pads. But the monopole, or the monopine, would fold over upon itself and be contained almost exclusively within the compound. You've seen this type of technology before. It's used on the interstate system. I usually pull a memory from 2004 when Hurricane Charlie came through. I grew up in Sarasota, and along I-75, it came right up Kings Highway. All those lampposts were folded over at the same height at the interstate exit, and that was to keep the travel lanes clear. So you're not looking at a situation where this would fall over into the woods and cause a calamity or anything like that. Property values, you know, we've gone over and above the objective standards of your code. If you do feel it's necessary, I do have a property value study letter for another APC site, but I would draw you back to the fact that we have the safeguards that you have put in place to ensure compatibility and in turn ensure property values are protected have been exceeded in this situation. So I would respectfully request that you grant approval, and I'm available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, just one observation I made in relation to the concerns over wildlife is that actually that location that they selected is far less impactful from the standpoint of not having to clear other wooded areas and impact potentially wetlands. So it's just one thing an observation is that it actually does probably mitigate impacts on wildlife and on natural resources.
Yeah, I know there's concern over the bald eagle's nest, so I just checked online. You can go to Audubon or Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. They both have GIS mappers, keep track of active nests. LA 144 is more than 660 feet further away, so I really appreciate the concern over the eagles. We want to make sure that's done right. That's quite a distance. In fact, it looks like it's probably more like 1,000 feet away at least from that, so to the gentleman that was, and the lady that was concerned about bald eagles. So that should be addressed, should be taken care of. Yeah.
Mike, could I have you back up here, please? If I'm understanding right, we're moving from the center of the property to the edge of the property, but we're still maintaining all the current setbacks.
That's correct.
Okay, I must also remind the commission that, you know, some of the conversation today was about how close the tower is to residences. Right now, currently, 2 blocks to the north of us, there's a communication tower on Alfred Street and Texas Avenue. 4 miles to the east, there's another communication tower with no adverse effect. So, seeing that it meets all the setbacks by planning and zoning, and that we're going to do a monopole that, frankly, I'm not sure, I've never seen a depiction like that before. It almost looked like you took a picture of a pine tree and just put it into pine trees, so good job on that. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you for that information. All right, moving ahead then to our last case, which is tab 4. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. For the record, Mike Fitzgerald, Office of Planning and Zoning Director. Agenda item number 4 is entitled Crescent Pines Rezoning. The requested action is to rezone approximately 40 acres from urban residential R6 to planned unit development to facilitate a residential subdivision consisting of 85 dwelling units. The Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of this item. The location is the northwest corner of Preeb Road and Log House Road in the unincorporated Claremont area. The applicant is requesting a rezoning to PUD with a density of 2.22 dwelling units per acre and a maximum impervious surface of 60% and a minimum open space of 25%. There is a required right-of-way dedication of 1.65 acres along Log House and Preeb Road, which will take place as part of the site plan approval if we get that far. The lots have a minimum area of 7,500 square feet with a minimum width of 75 feet. The City of Claremont has reviewed this and approved it for consistency with the JPA regulations. Sunshine Utilities has provided a letter as verification that they can serve the water utility needs, and the applicant has stated that they will construct a distributed wastewater system for the sewer capacity. School system has, Lake County Schools has reviewed this for the capacity determination, and they have determined that capacity is available. Lake County Fire Station number 109 is 1.4 miles from the subject property. Transportation review has been done, and it has been determined that the impact for surrounding roadways is de minimis. An environmental assessment will be submitted with any subdivision construction plan, and we will review it at that time. The applicant is here to answer any questions, and I am happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions before we hear from the applicant? Let me just double check on something, though. The land use on the comprehensive plan, on the future land use map, that's an urban low?
The land use is urban low, that is correct.
And what is the maximum density on urban low?
That is up to 4 units per acre in urban low.
Okay, the current zoning is R6. What is the maximum zoning on R6, or the maximum density?
R6 allows up to 6 units per acre, but in this case, they would be limited to the 4 because of the land use.
Okay, and just one more question. And the reason that they're not just filing a plat is because the lot number exceeds the minimum?
The lot number exceeds 50 units.
Or the max.
So it has to come in as a planned unit development, yes.
Okay, all right. But if they were staying under that number, it wouldn't come before us. It would just automatically could be platted.
According to our regulations, if they built 49 homes, they could move forward with a preliminary plat, subdivision construction, final plat, without a public hearing.
Okay. All right. The applicant, any other questions? And now we'll call on the applicant.
Good morning, Chuck Hyatt, 902 North Sinclair Avenue, Tavares, with Half Engineering. I'm glad you just brought that up, because that's really all I was going to say is we agree with planning and zoning. We want your support for this. This is kind of a infill as we see it. It's already zoned, it's already got land use, and the only reason we're here is because we're over 50 lots. And the minimum lot size, we did 75 feet because that's Clearmont's JPA. So we kind of met everything that Clearmont requires in their code, which exceeds your code. For instance, road widths, 24 feet with 2 feet curb and gutter. That's Clearmont, yours is only 20 feet. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Would your client be willing to go to the enhanced stormwater rules that go into effect in December of this year per the Water Management District?
We cannot have permits by the end of December. So yes, whatever rules are in place come the end of the year, we have to meet.
Another thought I had after our prior discussion is, would your client be willing to allow language to be added to this ordinance that would require maintenance of that stormwater system and impose, enforcement should they not do so?
Well, that language is usually included in your St. John's permit for HOA, type thing. So, I mean.
But I don't think it gives the county, and I know that's a policy decision, but it doesn't give the county authority. I don't think it just gives the Water Management District authority to.
Well, they're going to be, when St. John's uses the permit, the HOA, as it goes now, would be the one that's on the hook to maintain it. The problem is what happens before, what we talked about before, a lot of them aren't, they're never checked. I mean, what you might want to do is if, it'd be like a way of sort of making the HOA put reserves or some kind of a bond in place so we're not on the hook, because it's hard for us in an HOA if something blows out 10 years from now to say, no, when you've got an audience, a room full of people saying, please help us, even though it's technically the HOA's fault. So that might be the recommendation if you put that in the PUD ordinance language. And I don't know how the attorney would want to structure that, but.
Did you hear that, Melanie? I mean, our concern is about the HOA maintenance, that they're capable, that they do the things that they need to do in order to be able to maintain their stormwater infrastructure.
We could add language in here that requires the HOA to maintain the stormwater. I think there is already language in here about the HOA, but we could double check that.
Well, they will have to maintain it anyway. But the issue is will they have the money available if it blows out?
I mean, I don't know how we govern that. I mean, the HOA would have to determine what that amount would be and assess appropriately. I could add general language to that effect.
Just so that if they're not doing, if it came up and you had a homeowner that came in and said, I know our HOA isn't doing what they're supposed to do, we could point to the ordinance and we could, I'm just trying to think through practically how you.
Practically, if we had some language in there like that, you could take it to code enforcement, but if they don't have the money to fix the stormwater, all code enforcement's going to do is levy fines, so they're not going to have the money to pay the fines either.
What about the bond?
Wait.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, you can't speak from there.
We have speaker cards, so we have a chance. We're not making a decision until we hear from residents.
Can you do, could there be a performance bond that's in perpetuity? I mean, they just have to maintain the bond every year. I'm just throwing out ideas. But.
It's a conditional zoning, you can add that, and I guess if at some point they can't meet it, then they'd have to bring back an amendment to it, but you could add some type of performance bond.
It'd be basically like having insurance. The HOA has to maintain, they have financial obligations anyway if things So that might be the thing to do until, I just think long-term, the state is going to have to come up with a way, kind of like they did with condo associations, where they make sure that there are reserves in place to take care of infrastructure that's the responsibility of that neighborhood. Yeah, but until then, maybe this is our stopgap, measure that we would require a bond stay in place for.
On the DWTS, the HOA is going to be responsible for collecting the money and paying.
Is that how the DWTS is going to be set up?
It's either going to be the HOA or Sunshine or the county.
The MSBU, yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to be collecting the money on their ad valorem.
So currently, our code does not allow us to use the MSBU for new subdivisions. It's only to be used for the replacement under our grant. The board would have to change the code if you wanted to collect on behalf of new subdivisions.
Well, how did Lake Nellie get done?
Because they
They're
did it.
doing it in-house.
They're doing it, and this is an issue because it's some of the same things coming up with that, and the DEP would prefer, talk to them personally, they would prefer the MSBU be done by the county because it's the same issue of HOAs. What happens turning systems off, doing the regular maintenance, that kind of thing. So they prefer the MSBU, which is a pass-through for us. We don't have additional staff or anything, that just passes through.
Yeah, we still have to we
Well-
still have to have staff to,
Just to correct that, at some point, if we continue to add every new subdivision, the county manager would have to have additional staff because you have to do resolutions and things every year.
Understood, but we have a fee for that, that's built into the MSBU.
Correct. And for Lake Nellie, they would have contracted directly with Onsite as the provider, and Onsite would get the permit and hold the permit for that subdivision. And then they would have to assess as part of their HOA fees to pay for that system.
so we could do it on this one also?
Yes, if they use Onsite, then yes, they would have to contract directly with the provider and then assess as part of their HOA fees, unless you want to change the code and collect on their behalf.
I don't want to collect on their behalf. I think it's their responsibility.
Well, it is, but I know I don't want to sidetrack this case, but the issue with that is the county's on the hook for BMAP requirements, so. If they don't do if you leave an HOA to that, it's like now we're responsible for stormwater and whether we like it or not. The same thing goes with that. If it's not kept up or maintained, then the county gets fined eventually for not meeting BMAP. So but
It kind of comes full circle to the whole reason you're doing the systems to begin with is to protect the water quality, to protect the aquifer, to have central systems that are better than a septic system. So that's the reason why you would even want to have your hands in it going forward, is you want to make sure that if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, that you've got the ability to make it right. So it's just, I understand you wanting to, wash your hands of it and say, hey, that's your thing, developer, you're doing this, but at the end of the day, our goal is to be protecting the water quality and the aquifer and making sure these systems
So
work.
if they have this system, it would take care of that. What you're saying is, if somebody, there's no mechanism unless we do it to lien a property, is what you're saying. Is that we would have to lien, if they don't pay us, we lien the property?
And if they don't pay us, their property goes up for tax deed sale.
Okay.
If we were to include it as part of an MSBU. If it's not collected by the county, the HOA would have to assess for it, and then they would have the ability to lien the property under their restrictive covenants if a particular property owner or owners do not pay.
yeah, so either way, there's a lien, but it's just like a city utility.
We're just inserting ourselves in this that I don't think we need to be inserting ourselves. The developer wants to develop, he has to have this system, and it needs to be set up that the HOA takes care of it.
I know, but here we are back to Spring Ridge Estates and the bridge that collapsed. That's all I'm thinking of these days is don't give it to the HOA to enforce. Let's have the ability to say, you don't pay, then you're going to lose your house, basically. If you don't take care of your responsibility, you're not going to, I think you have to have that teeth. And I would be concerned that if we don't do it on the tax bill, then oh well. So let's keep moving along.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Are these private or public roads?
MSTU, so there'll be.
MSBU, okay, thank you.
public roads.
All right, that's a good point. Okay, all right, any other comments?
Just one more question. So if, right now, you have the ability to get 50 lots, and that's what you would get,
49.
but you want 85.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
Okay. All right, we have quite a lot of speaker cards, and you certainly have your right to 3 minutes, but you also can let us know that the person that already spoke or someone that already spoke hit the points you wanted to make and that you just want to be clear that you support things that are already said. It would help us move along faster. That's your prerogative. But I'm going to start with Joy, is it Kimes? Okay. And then after Joy, there's David Aiken.
I live at 108.
Your microphone down, please.
10844 Preby Road in Martin's Landing. And I walk every day and I look at those woods and I have to get off the road when there's cars coming. And it's a private road now. It's pretty much private. And we've got bobcats and tortoises and woodpeckers and owls that live in the woods, and I get to see those all the time, and it's beautiful. And it breaks my heart to see their homes being destroyed. For Claremont is growing so fast, and y'all are bringing up the floodwaters, and I see problems coming, and I just think that if you could delay this, if you could put it off, if you could do something for the animals, I would so appreciate that. Thank you.
Ma'am, the development you live in is, you live on Crescent Ridge Loop? Is that where?
No, Martin's Landing.
North.
Right at the end. The
north
gated
side of it.
Community.
How long's that been there?
It's been there.
1990s at least.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Next speaker is David Aiken, and then Charlie.
My name's David Aiken. I live at 10929 Preby Road in Claremont. I'm a long-term resident of Martin's Landing. I'm retired. My home is my permanent and sole residence. I've joked that the next move that I make will be horizontally. I'm speaking clearly and directly in opposition to this proposed development. Although it's not labeled as high-density housing, it is, in fact, high-density housing. It will virtually eliminate the wooded area that has maintained the quasi-rural nature of the tract and of our immediate and nearby communities, and that has served, as Joy mentioned, as a habitat for wildlife, both plant and animal. And as a result, this development is going to adversely affect the quality of life for many people. Joy mentioned the effect on animals. There are, in fact, gopher tortoises that live in the area. There are woodpeckers. There's been an incursion into the property recently. I'm not sure for what purpose, but it has destroyed at least 2 of the gopher tortoises' burrows. The habitat of those that I mentioned and others will not be replaced or replicated. To say that their quality of life will just be affected is an extreme understatement. They will be eliminated in that area. Again, to repeat, they are endangered and threatened species whose habitats will be destroyed. When I moved to my home, one of the most basic factors I considered was the quasi-rural nature of the area. I believe that was also high on the list of the other nearby residents. Why else would we have chosen to live in this area noticeably removed from commercial and suburban sprawl? Ladies and gentlemen, we are your tax-paying and voting constituents. We are surrounded within a 3-mile radius by other developments in progress. You have approved those developments for hundreds, I repeat, hundreds of housing units which have yet to be built, including this proposed development, which is argumentably unnecessary on a quality of life basis. It's just overkill. So I would ask you, when will enough be enough? When will you finally say we cannot approve this development? And I, again, stand in opposition to the proposed development. Thank you.
All right. Charlie Loft, and then Danny Cicero's.
My name's Charlie Wyckoff, and I live at 10839 Crescent Ridge Loop in Claremont, Florida, 34711. My house is in the subdivision that runs on the east side of Preby. I sit in my backyard and I look at that forest. I've looked at it for the last 20 years since I've been in that home. It's beautiful. It's just the kind of scenery that I moved from Colorado to come here and live in the warmth of Florida. When I moved there was the closest traffic light was at Hooks and 27, and now we have the light. 2 more lights have been put in there, but the roads are still the same. The roads will always be, as far as I can tell, the same 2-lane road in and out of Log House from Lake Shore all the way up to 561. To this day, we have trouble getting in and out of the neighborhood at certain times of the day because of traffic. You have trash collecting day, which bogs down Log House or Lake Shore, Log House Road along there. Also affects Lake Shore, which is even busier. So this backs traffic up. Sometimes traffic is backed up from the Circle K all the way practically to Log House from school buses or trash collecting. This impedes the fire department if there's emergency vehicles that have to get in and out. If you add 85 more homes and each house has a couple of cars, this is going to really impact the traffic. And if you can't put the cars anywhere else on the road except the road that goes through this area, people's lives are at stake. The wildlife, that's been addressed. I agree with it. It's been beautiful for the last 20 years. There's really no need. Enough is enough was a great choice of words. Let's at least see what happens with some of these others that you've already approved. Let them build, put this off for as long as we can, because, like I said, enough is enough. And for the safety of us people that are getting older, if we need emergency vehicles, if we need something to get there quick, it can't be done. You can't drive through houses. You have to stay on the roads. And I'd appreciate it if you'd turn down this application so that we could remain with a high quality of life that we all deserve. Thank you.
Can I just make a comment that would be, I think, to the benefit of everybody? We are faced with the decision of giving them 85 lots or they get the 50. Unfortunately, what some folks want, which I kind of want too, is for it to be a wooded area. Unless I'm wrong, legally, that's just not on the table. They've already been granted by previous, boards, this entitlement. So it's really 50 versus 85 lots, not to make it that crass, but really it's really that simple almost. There's a few other good concerns the board brought up, but in terms of just leaving it as it's just not a legal possibility. So just letting all the commentators know, because I wish we had that option. We legally don't. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think just to elaborate on that, it would be great for everybody that lives around it if it was a conservation area and it was owned by everybody that lives around it, or by a nonprofit entity or the Trust for Public Lands or something. But it's owned by a private property owner, and they do have their rights. So that's the rub here, is that we're not legally allowed to take away those rights. And so, and that's a basic part of our, our American government system. They do have those rights. So that's where we're at. So we're kind of at the additional lots versus what they already have. So with the additional lots, there can be some things that are imposed that actually enhance protections. I'm not clear on whether they would still have to do the DWTS. They'd still have to do waste distributive, even if it was platted as a,
Well,
oh, they would
any-
have to do advanced,
right, if their density is 1 unit per 1 acre or more, then they have to do some sort of central system if they can't connect to a regional system. So that would be the enhanced or the DWTS. But then under our code provisions, they would have to have a licensed operator until such time as they could connect into a regional system. And just to clarify the question earlier, Martin's Landing was platted in 2004.
And DWTS, remember, now in the eyes of DEP, counts as a central sewer system. So they could either connect to Claremont or they would go to a central sewer system. So in my mind, consistency, this is my interpretation of the comp plan, it would require them to go to DWTS.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, Danny Cisneros? I'm missing a syllable.
Well, obviously, again, my name is Danny Cisneros. I live in Martin's Landing, 10922. So a couple of things that have come up, what you mentioned, Ms. Campion, about the floodwaters. That's kind of the first thing that kind of came up as opposed to what I was speaking of earlier. And that is that our property is probably about maybe 15 feet below that area. And so right now, as it is, I think it does provide a bit of a buffer for floodwaters to be coming down into our area. So it would be really important for us to be able to look at, to make sure that however this is developed, that floodwaters aren't going to be flooding into our area, because it's already above us. So when they tear down all these trees, and it's just plain sand, where's all that water going to go that essentially would have been trapped in this, beautiful wooded area that we have now. So please take that into consideration. The developer has the opportunity right now to make that, their retention ponds a certain size or whatever the regulations are, but definitely please look into how that flood water will eventually be, flow in which direction, all that. And then just one other point I'd like to make is I'm also from Colorado, and one of the things that we noticed as they're planning communities, they're always looking at some sort of central area for recreation. So as you're planning 3, 4, 5 neighborhoods together, there's a central area where people can have recreation, to ride their bikes, to go go for a jog or shoot some hoops or something. And I feel like a lot of this planning, none of that is ever taken into consideration. It's just as many houses as we can put in there, and then that's it. Based on the rules, we can put this many houses. Let's just do it. And it'd be nice to see areas for kids. Think about kids that are growing up in the area and trying to ride their bikes and that kind of thing. And because right now the roads are very dangerous. If you want to ride your bike, you're going to get clipped by a car. So, thank you.
All right, Gail? Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the earlier outburst. Well, I'm just as passionate, I think, as everybody here is passionate about this subject today. So I also am a resident. I live near that handsome man right there in Martin's Landing. So we're directly affected by this beautiful greenery that's going to be torn down. And as you were speaking about earlier, the flood concern is high. So, like he said, we're completely downhill from those trees. And so I was talking to one of the representatives or applicants, and I was asking him about how many, if there's going to be pond retentions or anything to help us with that matter. And so I'm really concerned about that and hoping that it is not something that is passed to the HOA. Because it's going to take them a long time for the HOA to come up with those funds. They're going to begin in the negative. Sure, their escrow title will collect a certain amount of money for their HOAs at the beginning, but it's going to take a long time to collect money if something happens. The builder should be responsible, since they're the ones coming in and fixing and doing and building. They should have that from the beginning and understand that they're responsible for that, because they're changing the zoning. They're changing the structure of the greenery. The other thing I would like to ask is if we could take down the homes. When you said that, I was like, you're exactly spot on to what my request is today, is from going to 85 to 49 homes. That would allow our neighborhoods to stay somewhat looking like a neighborhood, and not like cookie cutters, and not like, hey, this is just another home development. We all take pride in where we live. We all enjoy the neighborhood that we have now. And so that is just my request, is to not do 85 homes just because it's possible, just because the builder will make money. We just ask, please, to take that down to at least 49 homes. That's it. So thank you for.
And I just wanted to clarify something. They are required, the builder is required to put the stormwater ponds and all that infrastructure in place at the front end. We were talking about the maintenance, like later down the road when things need to be maintained or kept up in order to work. Who's going to be responsible for that? And that would fall on the HOA. So I just wanted to clarify that. Okay.
Wanted to make sure, because I know HOAs, the fees are not
Yes.
going to be so high that they can maintain this. So to start off with, it'll be very minimal, so.
Thank you.
And I gotta respond to something. There may be a confusion amongst the room, because we've heard the 49 lots several times. The 49 lots was only so the developer wouldn't have to come in front of us. It could just pass straight through. Legally, this gentleman, he has 40 acres. He's allowed 4 homes per, so he could legally build 120 houses, but he's only asking for 85, which is 2.2 residential units. So I'm just bringing that up. So thank you very much.
I know that you did mention that. I know that it's been something that is said, but we're asking for just the integrity of our community and the integrity of other communities that are here that will miss.
Understood. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Can we just be real clear? I hate to interrupt public comment. Can we just have a very brief discussion? Where are we getting the 49 from if 120 is the legal threshold?
So what happens is, under our code, if you have straight zoning, you cannot develop it beyond 49 units without you would have to get a PUD in order to go beyond 49 units. It doesn't matter
How long
what.
has that been in the code?
So,
Several years.
Okay.
several
At
years,
least a few
yes.
years, that's good. But so Commissioner Smith, I mean, is it a legal description you're describing when you say it could have been 120?
That's based on the land use designation.
Based on
Up
the
to
land
4
use
units per acre is what the future land use map on the county's comprehensive plan is for urban low designation.
But another provision of the code prevents that, so it's not really,
No.
PUD for 120.
He's entitled for 120. He's asking
oh,
for
okay.
85.
But so, just to be clear, because I don't want them, I almost feel like they were maybe confused. I want to make sure everyone's on the same page here. Yeah, they can ask for 85, they can ask for 95, they can ask for 120, but they're only entitled right now to 49 if we deny
No,
this.
they're entitled for 120. They're only asking for 85. The reason why they're coming before us is because they are above.
If we deny any and all, I'm just trying to make this legally possible, like, it's simple for the audience. If we deny all PUDs, the max is 49 that they can get, correct?
No.
I know what you're saying.
If we don't rezone at all, they get 49 homes, correct?
I would agree, though. I don't think that the word entitled is.
Is the right word.
Sure,
Well, I don't
just
know.
change the
I don't
word.
know if it's
So
the right word in
If
this
all
case.
rezonings are denied, the max that they can get under the zoning they have now is 49 homes.
Let me try to put it this way. You could have.
Okay,
you
let's
could
just go back in reverse here.
Okay, you could have a 200-acre parcel that wants 51 homes. It would still have to come before us because it's over the 49 homes.
Totally, got it, following you, next.
Okay,
Okay, but what's the next part? I mean, if.
The next
no
part
reason-
is they're entitled for 120 homes. They're only asking for 85. The only reason why they're in front of us is because.
Well, I just want to complete that hypothetical. So you have 200 acres, you want 51 homes. You're in an R6 currently.
Correct.
So how do you, without a rezoning, how do you get the 51 without a rezoning?
You have to get a rezoning, you have to get a
Okay, so that's,
PUD.
so
No,
for the third
Melanie,
time.
Maybe.
Okay, so,
Yes, please.
yeah, so let me jump
Put
in.
yourself in their shoes, listen, yeah.
Let me jump in here. So the R6 originally gave them 6 units to the acre. Okay, that was before our 2010 comp plan. When our 2010 comp plan came in, we assigned this area urban low, which limits them to 4 to 1. So their entitlement is R6 at 6 to 1. The only reason that they come back here if they're going to put more than 49 homes on the lot is because the board made a decision that they wanted to be able to look at those subdivisions to put in conditions to make them more compatible, not to take away their entitlements. So that's the reason why the PUD is required, is so that you can look at it and go in and say, okay, if you're going to do 85 lots, we want extra buffers, or we want this, or we want that. It wasn't intended to take away what they were entitled to as an R6 zoning, which they probably had for years upon years at this particular location. So the 50-unit threshold was in the code, it came out of the code, and then it went back in the code, I think maybe 2 years ago. So it's something that the board could take out, in which case they could develop under the entitlements that they have, which is the R6, limited by the future land use of 4 to 1.
Well, I hope it never comes out of the code.
Well, it is, and I think to your question for the public, because we get this a lot, I mean, it's a great question that you asked, because yes, they're entitled to something that says there are 6 and a urban low land use density. And that's the designation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're entitled like we have to grant it. I mean, personally, it has to be consistent with the comprehensive plan in my eyes. I think it says it in the code. Plus, it has to meet everything, the basis of review, to grant some kind of a zoning change. They have the entitlement, per se, that yes, that's the paper that says they could do that, and it could theoretically be up that high, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we just rubber stamp permits and zoning changes. Now, unfortunately, sometimes it's communicated that way to various boards and councils and things, but we all have the ability to interpret whether it's consistent with the comp plan and it meets all the criteria for basis of review to grant what they're asking for.
Well, I hope that stays in the code.
Yeah, and I agree.
Sorry for the confusion.
So just to add another piece of information for the board, since the issue of the trees have come up a couple times, this property has an agricultural classification for timber, so they could harvest those trees at any point in time that they wanted to, regardless of whether they build a subdivision. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that the trees may or may not stay, depending on what the board does today, and depending on whether they decide to harvest the trees or actually build a subdivision of 49 lots. They do have that ag classification.
Right, that's actually a good point. Just so everybody understands the whole lay of the land here, that as much as we may feel the emotion and how you're attached to this property, the landowner of the property could do some things right now that would completely change the way that land looks. So I think at the end of the day, when we have these hearings, and the reason why that code provision is in there for the PUD process, it's for us to try to take the concerns and sort of blend them into a solution that is that takes into account, concerns without denying them their rights and without actually creating a worse situation, which that's what we want to avoid, is a worse situation. So come up with the best solution, avoid a worse situation, and hopefully everybody walks away with something, but maybe not everything that they hope to achieve today. All right, next card is Cindy Newton. And yeah, I'm going to run to the restroom.
Okay. All right.
So we can keep moving.
Okay.
You listening?
Good morning still. Cindy Newton, District 4. A lot of my concerns were spoken on, and I really appreciate the commission going through that. I do want to show a map. Thank you. This is the elevation that the neighbors are talking about. The center of this property is at about 168 feet. And with the stormwater ponds and things, even natural drainage, some of these areas go clear down to 120 feet around here. So we're looking at a lot of drainage issues. Right now, those trees are the natural flood control for this area. And looking at the whole picture, what we've been talking about, this is the property. And as you can see, it is the major flood control for this area. So that really needs to be taken into consideration with these stormwater ponds going in. Will they be enough? Will the compensating storage take into effect what is already going on around this area? So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm just filling in for the chair while she's out. She can, I'll remind everybody, she can hear in the back. She's just taking a short break. Mr. J. Paul?
Thanks for giving me some time here. I'm 61 years old. I ain't gonna be here much longer. I'm concerned about our kids in the area, and I know some of the parents here. And these people fly up and down our roads, and I'm not talking about 30, 40, 50. It's 25 in front of my house. They're doing 80 on motorcycles, pulling wheelies, and there's nobody to stop them. It's like we live in the Wild West right there on Log House Road, and I enjoy living there, but I don't know how much longer I can handle it. So, our home was a transitional home, and we were going to build somewhere else, and I'm like, well, I like it here, and I want to stay there, but I don't see how I could. We're trapped in our homes. At certain times of the day, there's a bus stop where my granddaughter used to be, right there on the corner. I mean, it concerns me. I asked that they put in speed, if you're gonna have to do this, which it sounds like you've already decided to do it. I mean, somebody has, whether it's y'all or the people that are wanting, that own the property. I pray that the people that own the property, in the name of Jesus, they change their mind and they want to do something different. But anyway, I pray you just put in speed bumps. I don't know, I heard there was a roundabout coming in somewhere. I mean, but that ain't enough. I mean, we need some way to slow these people down. They come through the S curves from Lake Shore, and they're tired of waiting on the car in front of them because you can't go very fast. And I mean, I see them, and I'm only in my yard out doing yard work once in a while, but I see them clipping along at 80 easily. I understand, how fast people are going to a degree, and it's just, this is not what I signed up for or any of these people signed up for. And I appreciate you giving me time to talk, and I've already said too much. But I pray that somebody stops this from going any further. You said it's already been approved for 49, so that's coming in. no matter what we say or do, but please put in some speed bumps to slow everybody down, because I just see a lot of fatalities with cars and motorcycles and things like that. And our kids deserve better than to have to stand out there, what are they, this far from death? I mean, they deserve better than that. Y'all have a good day.
Richard Fisher, and then Allison Stanley.
I'm a resident of Crescent Ridge Loop. My property butts right up to the new proposed property. We moved here 22 years ago. We loved the place, beautiful setting, everything like that. And yes, we'd love to keep the property as is. That's what we fell in love with. I know it's granted 49 homes. If that's what we have to have, we have to have. 85 is by far way too much for that area. The traffic is horrible. You put more houses, 85 houses in there. What's the new town going to be called? It can't hold the traffic. The S-curve right there, they had to put a guardrail up because that house on the end there has been hit 5 or 6 times since I've been there. Then, the houses prior, past that guardrail has been hit. More traffic. You go down Lakeshore. It takes you 45 minutes to get out to the turnpike now. It's just over 49 homes. Okay, if we have to have 49 homes, but 85, 120, the roads can't take it. So, thank you for your time.
Okay. All right, Allison Stanley, and then Karen Campbell.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Allison Stanley, and I'm a homeowner on Log House Road across from the proposed Crescent Pines development. My husband and I are both veterans and just purchased our first home 2 months ago in Claremont. I'm here this morning to respectfully ask that you deny or delay this rezoning request from R6 to a planned unit development. The applicant proposes 85 homes on about 40 acres, but the real impacts of this development are much more complicated than that. Currently, the development has received a traffic concurrency waiver because it was considered de minimis. However, the county's own table report shows that an added 869 daily trips on Log House Road. Log House Road is not functionally classified roadway. However, it is the bridge between County Road 561, Pine Island Road, and Lakeshore Drive, which are all classified as collector or arterial roads. Our road also serves as a primary route for the Lake County solid waste collection site located on Log House Road, and a Pine Ridge Elementary School buses also use that to bus kids to and from the school, as well as existing residents. The added strain would impose safety risks, increase congestion and wear on the road, and adding nearly 900 more daily trips to a local road not designed for this capacity could hardly be considered de minimis. And I'd encourage the county to conduct a traffic study before approving such waivers, if that's how that works. I'm not sure, but yeah. The application also notes the location of the nearest fire station being 1.4 miles away, but the response times are dictated by access, not always distance. With only one way in and one way out from the development, any accident or blockage would prevent fire, EMS, or law enforcement from getting access to any new developments or existing homes in a timely manner. As you are all aware, there is the county maintains a comprehensive plan for 2030, and that includes future land use elements. This parcel is designed as an urban low density for future land use, and the property is surrounded on 3 sides by long-established single-family neighborhoods with larger lots and mature trees, the very type of community the urban low future land use category was meant to protect. It also calls for compatible design and gradual transitions between densities. The proposed plan instead jumps abruptly from half-acre and 1-acre lots to tightly packed 7,500 square foot homes. My own home and my direct neighbors have lots of 1 acre or larger for comparison. It's not compatible with existing homes and infrastructure. Additionally, the plan has been amended multiple times this year to allow new PUD developments, each one increasing density and traffic while eroding the original balance between rural and urban land uses. The county is now seeing the cumulative consequences.
I just have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You seem to know a lot about planning for your age. Are you like studying it in college or something? I mean, sorry, I'm shocked. She's speaking like you're a master planner. I was like, what's going on here? All the vocabulary.
Well, I am 24, but I did do a lot of research before this
Okay.
because I didn't want to come up here and
Kind of like an
make a fool of
undergraduate
myself in front
student
of
in
you guys.
planning or something.
could hope.
Good job.
Thank you. But
All right, thank you. And then, let's see, Karen Campbell?
Karen Campbell, thank you for your time. I live in Crescent West, which is just on the other side of the new proposed development. Of course, while we all agree, we'd love to keep that beautiful nature preserve area. It's beautiful. You know, I moved to Crescent West in my young 20s. I'm now closing in on retirement age, and my biggest concerns is we've always known that area was going to someday be developed. Well, it's here. We've all known that it's coming. I thank God it's taken this long, but while I think 49 homes, in my opinion, is putting the maximum amount that you should put in there to be responsible of your land use. Right now, during the hurricanes that we have, I'm on the road that's right outside of that one, and these folks live right down from there. We have flooding. We have to sandbag every hurricane because we do have the runoff and the flooding. So my concern is that they have the retention in the runoff areas that they need to have to take care of that water runnage. And my other biggest concern is I work part-time at that Circle K right now off of Lakeshore Drive and Kings Fisher. And we live, that store is right next to a development that uses the lift system. And I tell you, the amount of time that I smell that sewer from that neighborhood is just so appalling and disgusting to me. And to think that it's gonna be put right in my own backyard right now, and I'm just supposed to hope and pray that the HOA there is gonna be able to take care of it and run it responsibly, I don't think it's gonna happen. My HOA can barely get news flyers out and keep people paying their dues and keep the neighborhood mowed, and that seems to be a full-time job for these people, which I thank God that they do it because others don't have the time. But my biggest concern, and it's just the quality of life that's gonna change for all of us. We've lived there for several years, and even if you just moved there, you should still have the quality of life that you would expect to have in a lake community, rural area. We are overbuilding, we're building too fast. The road systems that we have are old 2-lane highways. The S-curve they speak of, people drive, there's so many cars going through there, they go so fast, they do drive into these people's houses, so they put in a guardrail. The school right now, my oldest daughter is 20 now, she went to that elementary school. I would say I live maybe 5 minutes from there. At 15 years ago, I would have to leave 45, 50 minutes early for school to make sure that I could get in the line of cars to get her to school on time. Now that traffic is backed up for at least over half a mile to a mile, all the way down Log House Road, down Pine Island Road, down 561. They have at least a football and a half field of empty area behind the school they put cars in to wait in line. That's basically it. Thank you.
Okay, all right. The lift station, though, I was a little confused. There's an actual lift station nearby that's like a central sewer plant lift station?
They have a package plant.
A package plant,
Yeah.
okay, all right, thank you. Okay.
Susan's Landing, yeah.
Mark Campbell, and you can,
Thank you for being here today. I briefly read up on each one of you because I wanted to know who I was going to talk to, but I wanted to take the time to thank you for being here. You know, I just couldn't imagine. Melanie, thank you for correcting that date on the Martin's Landing. I remember sometime in the mid-'90s when the cows would be right next to our driveway there, and I remember that whole Martin's Landing for sale for, I think it was $240,000. Should have bought it. I've gone through so many different things here listening where I was thinking, wow, I don't want to see these houses along Willowwood Drive. I live at 10797 Willowwood Drive in Crescent West. There's 5 homes on there. The one side of that road, there's nothing, and then there's a row of trees, and then it's this community that's going to go in. And I think I want to jump right to what really matters. If each one of you don't know this, you don't know it. You don't know what you don't know. That road, that log house road, it can't be a half-mile long, something like that. And it is a main road. It's not 561. It's not the Lakeshore Drive. It's a cross between. People decide which way to go depending on the traffic. I want to tell you, if you have not been there, I saw it the other day for the first time because I normally don't go along Lakeshore Drive, along Minnehaha and over the Lake Susan Bridge when I come home because I go by Winn-Dixie and I go down there by the Dollar Tree store and go down 561 over the jumping bridge. The other day, I came home that way, and I was stopped 30, 40 cars on Lakeshore Drive to get to the stop sign of, and I forget, it used to be Lake Louisa Drive, and that's not that anymore. Is that Hammock? Hammock Ridge Road. Hammock Ridge Road goes to Lake Susan Bridge, right? The traffic was stopped, the 30 or 40 cars on Lakeshore Drive at the stop sign trying to go to the right to go over Lake Susan Bridge, but the cars are on Hammock Ridge Road are stopped on the bridge all the way around the curve and out of sight up Hammock Road, out of sight. This is at 5 o'clock. This is before any of these other things are going to go in here. So I kind of want to move along here because that 3 minutes seems to go by pretty fast. Can I ask Mike, the gentleman over here, is there going to be, there's going to be curbs and drainage in this, is that correct?
Yeah. Now, wait a minute. Mike, you'd have to come up to the microphone.
I have to ask some questions.
I mean, you can ask the question, he can answer it later. Just put the questions out there.
Okay, curbs. Are they gentle slope curbs or are they real curbs that contain water, that have drainage that go down? I see that it says a pond on the east and on the west side of this. That's not the way the drainage necessarily goes. Drainage basically goes towards the north and towards that, the dump area. How would that water get there? Through imagination or hope?
All right, good questions.
Chairman, the intent is for Miami curb and storm ponds. This is an excellent question for the applicant's engineer to put into the record, if I can make that recommendation.
Okay. All right, let's wait till we get to that point, and we'll make sure they address how that's designed. Okay. Kevin Smith, and then, did Cindy already talk?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, little check.
Ready?
Yes.
All right, good morning, everybody. Hey, everyone, thanks for coming out. You know who I'm talking to, community, neighbors, all that. I was going to touch on the birds and the bees and the trees, but it seems like that's kind of spoken for already. Yeah, we all love the woods, but they have the timber ability to go ahead and harvest it. Yay, that sucks. Yeah, we moved there for that. A little bit more crass than most. I'm a veteran. I am 100% Service Connect disabled. I stay home most of the day, and I walk around that community more than most people. Not Miss Joy. Miss Joy's got me beat. To speak on the traffic thing, yeah, she's entirely correct. If you haven't been there, actually, Vice Chairman Parks, I believe you visited the community 7-8 years ago, and we discussed the speed there, and we tried to find some resolutions, couldn't find any. But we're a self-managed HOA, so we bring everything in-house. We have our reserves, by the way, for those of you who think we don't. So we kind of think about our problems in advance, but we didn't really kind of see this one coming up. We can't really avoid this one. Block House, all those roads, the traffic that comes flying in through the S-turn, those are just things that are out of our control just to do to like the density of the traffic and whatnot. And then also my kids go to the school right there up the road, and I know they said the capacity is, it can handle more children and whatnot, but I've spoken to a lot of teachers over the past 10 to 15 years, and they feel like the classrooms are busting at the seams. So I'm not quite sure where they're getting that from, but I think my son's going to move out of that school and move on to middle school soon. But the ones that are there before me, I just wonder like how much attention is each classroom going to get. You kind of know the problem I'm already trying to address here. But really the biggest thing here is like the traffic. Like I'm not going to harp on it. Everyone's done it. I'm not going to waste more time on it. Traffic's crazy. I literally almost hit Miss Joy. Sorry, by the way. The other day, coming from dropping off my child at school. It wasn't because I'm a bad driver or anything like that, just because the road was so packed and she's forced onto the pavement, off the pavement, and whatnot. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to be done about this. I can't say 49 homes, 120, 110. I don't know. But hopefully you guys think about just like us average people that are just trying to survive and exist in that corner of the earth there, and do what you can. And thanks for your time.
All right, thank you, Kevin. All right, do we have anyone online? No. Okay, all right, so we're going to bring it back to the board, and we're going to bring it to the applicant and then the board.
Good morning again. I just want to clarify some things on the R6 versus urban low. R6 allows for 6 units per acre. It also allows for multifamily. Okay? So hypothetically, I'm just saying, 40 acres, 6 units per acre, there is 240 units. Urban low is 4 units per acre, so 40 times 4 is 160 units. All right? If this was a site plan doing multifamily apartments or whatever, we would not have to come in for a PUD. The only reason we're here is because we're exceeding the 49 lots. And we want to do single family, not multifamily. Stormwater will be addressed per the county code and the Water Management District new criteria that's coming out on the 28th. The roads will have curb and gutter. They will have sidewalks. And the environmental concerns and so forth, we have to go through. We have, FWC, we've got to get all of our permits. If there's an eagle close by, if there's skink, if there's turtles, whatever it is, we have to mitigate or take care of before we can put the first shovel in the ground. So with that being said, I would like for you guys to approve the 85 lots with the PUD zoning, knowing that the R6 zoning is there, or R6, yeah, zoning is there, and the urban land use is currently there. So I answer any more questions if you guys have any other questions.
So, just to make sure, when your developer develops a piece of property, there's going to be a sidewalk in front of the development, correct?
That is
on Log House Road?
We will have to put in, from our frontage, along our frontage, a sidewalk on Log House.
Okay, so, and if I'm not mistaken, the only piece that wouldn't have sidewalk from this development to 561 would be the landfill area that goes in between them two, which is the next lot over.
I believe that is correct.
Yeah.
I believe I talked to.
Yeah, I drove it the other day, so.
As far as the concerns that we've heard about the elevation of this property in relation to the adjacent properties,
Yeah, water goes downhill, so the ponds will be downhill on the exterior portion of the property. And that's why they're kind of shown along the west and the east. So all the roads and so forth will have infrastructure, drainage, those pipes will be piped to the ponds.
so if the same, I think it's been called a rain bomb, that's what Devo's calling what happened to us the other night in Mount Dora.
Right.
If a rain bomb happened on this property in the future, based on the stormwater design, wouldn't those ponds overflow and flow downhill?
Yep. So legally, drainage law, whatever leaves the site in the existing pre-condition can leave the site in post-condition. Example, if you have 5 CFS coming off your property, in the existing condition, the way it sits, you're allowed to release 5 CFS in the post-condition. If you're in a landlocked basin, it then goes from rate to volume. So then you have to meet a pre-post of volume. So if you have an acre foot of volume leaving the site in the pre-development, you're allowed to leave 1 acre foot of volume in the post-development. The difference between a landlocked basin and a non-landlocked is landlocked, we have to look at the 25-year, 96-hour storm event. The unlandlocked, we have to look at the 25-24, but here recently, the county has been wanting to see what the 100-year flood elevation is for the development. So we would be looking at all that, and you just mentioned that the 500 storm, that St. John's in the new rule that's happening in December. So we would be looking at that as well.
But in the 1,000-year storm, which is the 0.1% chance in a year that we just had happen the other night.
And those are the what-ifs and so forth. I mean, we never thought we were going to see after Milton last year. We never even dreamed of more than 15 inches of rain. And here we were a year later. So, I mean, I don't know what's coming, but Mother Nature has a way of being Mother Nature.
Wish we had those good lottery odds.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. So, any other questions for the applicant? Does well, I guess it's unfair to ask whether.
I wanted to add one more thing, too. You mentioned the HOA early on. We don't mind putting that in the ordinance that the HOA is responsible for the stormwater. Sorry about that.
And roads.
Yeah, the roads are the MSTU.
Okay, all right. I have a question, and it relates to the fact that the property could be timbered, everything could be clear-cut right now, versus what happens when you've got a rezoning case that's pending, you've got, an application that's going through. You can't use that timber exemption and clear-cut. You still have to comply with our landscape and tree ordinance, don't you?
My understanding with the ag exemption is we're allowed to take those trees anytime during the process. So even before construction, we can go in and take those trees as an ag exemption. And Melanie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but.
Then you lose the exemption, though.
Correct, yeah, once we get if we get this through and we become platted and so forth and the trees are cut, then yes, we then lose the ag exemption.
I believe at the time that they record the plat is when they lose the exemption, but we've had some property appraiser cases on that and some other subdivisions, so.
But they're gonna, if they're developing, they're not so worried about losing the exemption. It's just, they know they're going to lose the exemption. I was just wondering whether our rules regarding tree removal come into play at all, or if they could, even if we put a PUD in place and we said we wanted you to maintain a 100-foot buffer around the edges of this property, would that be preempted by the fact that they've got an ag exemption on it right now and they could just go in and clear cut it all?
We could take the trees out, and if you had a buffer, then we have to plant the buffer per your code.
So it would kind of be against your best interest to clear cut if we put a 100-foot buffer around the edges of that property. You'd want to use the trees that you have right now, wouldn't you?
That is correct, and that's the intent. The perimeter of the property, the intent is, I believe we have a minimum 25-foot buffer shown right now. And basically the east and the west where the ponds are, we're actually going to have a little more buffer because you have some green space of pond and what have you there as well.
Yeah, how wide is that buffer that I see on this concept?
25-foot minimum.
But where the stormwater is, so how wide would that be?
Oh, I don't have that number, but it's going to be every bit of probably 125 feet.
But it'll be ponds, it won't be trees.
Right. Well, you'll still have the 25-foot buffer, and then you'll have the pond, and then you'll have the road and the lots where the ponds are.
I think that the cumulative effects of the traffic are a reason to have a lower density on this property. I think the concerns about the stormwater management and the fact that we're talking about making changes, and we would have already made the changes if it hadn't been for Senate Bill 180. We would have been all through that process already, is another reason why, I would be more inclined to say we need to postpone work on those regulations so that when and if this is approved, that they would be in place, that we would have the new regulations in place. So I'm leaning towards a lower density because of the impacts and the traffic in the area and because of the stormwater and flooding concerns.
I move to deny the rezoning.
I'll second, and I have some discussion.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, to a couple of the points that have been already discussed, we look at 1403.03 standard review, and there's a couple points of that I don't think, for me, personally meet the test to grant the zoning request. The comprehensive plan, something that hasn't been mentioned, I still think that there's an inconsistency with the comp plan. If you look at policy out of the solid waste goals and objectives and policies, 10-4.2.6, prohibition of incompatible new development near solid waste management facilities. The county shall adopt land development regulations that prohibit new development that is incompatible with the operation of nearby solid waste management facilities based on land use types and specified distance buffers contained in the future land use element and future land use map. Landfill site setbacks will comply with Florida Department of Environmental Protection regulations. I looked for those. I don't see, the DEP will tell you that they can vary, 1,000 feet to a mile. I mean, there's different distances that they reference, and I don't see anything in our code. I'm not even sure we ever even made that change when this comp plan was adopted to have the regulations. There's nothing specified with buffers, unless I'm missing something. But and I don't see. That's why I was kind of asking you about the buffers. I think it's going to be a problem at that density with the facility next door, particularly with future plans that we may have, and as more people come into the county, the higher usage of that facility. I see a lot of unhappy people there, right or wrong. Maybe they should have known that it was there, but I see, everybody from lot 27 to 41 potentially having issues with being right next to a facility like that. Also, when I look at the lot widths, I know that in the PUD ordinance, you're saying 75 feet. If I did some measurements of lot widths around that whole area, a lot of them are about 100 foot. There's a couple of 85s or 90s that are in there. So I'm just not sure that is consistent with the area, and that goes to the G of property values and consistency with the area. Smaller lots could be compatible, but I haven't seen any like architectural standards, and I know we technically can't ask for that, but for me to determine what that's going to look like and how it might be compatible if you're going to do smaller lot sizes, I just don't have any indication or any kind of idea about what the future would be for these 85 lots that are proposed. And as well as the traffic that's been mentioned as well. There is a plan that's in place for the Lake Shore corridor, which is a problem. Everything that people have said, it is a total problem. There's been some progress that's been made. Recently, 2 new roundabouts were built by the developer, essentially, and impact fees. There's a plan that's been in place. We did this about 8 years ago along the corridor. It's a corridor plan that our staff did internally, has proposed some things. There's a roundabout that's up there at Lake Shore and Hammock Ridge. That's part of it. There's also some traffic calming measures generally in this area along Log House Road that are part of that plan as well. So, I mean, to me, until that plan is in place and we have funding for it, and those are sort of incrementally being done, which is my knowledge, none of the additional improvements other than the last 2 roundabouts that were approved. There are no additional improvements that are funded or coming anytime soon. That's why I think, if it was mitigating the traffic somehow, then I might be able to kind of check that part off the list. But I do think it continues to create and exacerbate the traffic problem along Lake Shore Drive. So that's why I would be voting, for those reasons, be voting no. Just wanted to get it in the record.
All right, additional discussion? Commissioner Morris, Commissioner Smith, anything else? No? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion to deny stands. All right, moving ahead in the agenda to the annexation report.
Thank you, Chairman. For the record, Mike Fitzgerald, the Office of Planning and Zoning Director. I have an annexation report to give. This is for the City of Fruitland Park. City of Fruitland Park is proposing to annex approximately 94.67 acres of land located north of County Road 466A, west of Micro Racetrack Road. The intent is to develop the property with a residential use with villas or duplex units in accordance with the regulations of Fruitland Park. Lake County Public Works Department has commented on this and has said that as part of the development, a traffic signal, left turn lane, and a roundabout will be required. As a comparison to existing Lake County rural residential land use, we allow 1 dwelling unit per 5 net acres, and the municipality will be proposing 4.3 dwelling units per 1 acre. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, wait a minute, go back. It's rural, it's 1 to 5, and they want to go to multifamily low density, 4.3 dwelling units to the acre.
Correct, and apparently per their comprehensive plan, they are allowed up to 8 dwelling units per acre for that.
And it's obviously contiguous, there's no, okay, there's the map.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
On one side.
It's contiguous on the south. This map shows it a little bit more clearly. It will consist of there are 4 alternate keys. 3 of them are to be annexed. 1 is already in the city and is part of the development.
I mean, this is rural. I mean, if we're going to stick with a policy or philosophy of rural land should stay rural, this is rural. This isn't like urban low and they're annexing our urban low in order to go just a little bit higher in density. This is, they're proposing to annex rural to go to urban high. So it's pretty different than what our comp plan says.
I would categorize it as urban medium if we compared it to our comp plan. Our comp plan urban medium is up to 7 dwelling units per acre.
Okay, so they're going from rural to urban medium.
Correct.
Commissioner Morse, you have any thoughts? It's over in your neck of the woods.
It's a lot of capacity. I mean, a lot of homes. I think it's just way too much in that area.
We can make a request that we think it should stay rural and that we're concerned about road impacts and that we're concerned about keeping the county comprehensive plan intact and that we're not in favor of it. At least we're letting our position be known and point out whatever the transportation issues are over in that area and things that would need to be enhanced if they were to move forward.
Well, and I think Lady Lake has something on the other side coming too, right? Right.
This is actually not quite that, this is past, I think, what you're thinking of. This is over where they're building the new ER.
Right.
I think the question is, are you willing to write a letter to the city of Fruitland Park with our concerns?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd put in there concerns about open space. I mean, obviously, it's kind of these similar situations. I mean, if you look at the aerial, there's development on the other side in there.
That's the Villages.
The Villages, that's development, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's how to do that properly if it's going to be, if they're going to annex it and build on it, I think is the big concern. But yeah, you're going to have an issue with those people next door.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, some of the comments today about how we don't have, parks and so forth in the area that we were just talking about. Well, that's like piecemeal development where parcel comes in, and, you rely on our master park plan, in order to take care of things like parks. You look over at the Villages, well, they've built all that into their master planning, similar to what's happening in Wellness Way. It's all built into that. So, I see this as an opportunity where you could have open space remain open space or do the type of project where you actually cluster and you leave big swaths of open space, and that would be consistent with our comprehensive plan. And it would certainly lessen the impacts on the roads and all of the surrounding infrastructure. All right, Commissioner Morris.
You gonna handwrite it?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have staff do that for me. How about that?
I was going to say, "we" usually means me. Yeah.
Keep me out of legal trouble anyway, right?
Melanie's using ChatGPT anyway.
Oh, definitely not. Mike, when is the hearing on this?
This hearing is December 11th, 2025 at the City Commission.
All right, we'll get that ready for you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have another one?
That's it.
Okay. All right, then moving along, we have, our closed session is at what time?
Closed session is at 1:30, and it'll be across the hall.
Okay.
Just a quick question. How long does this usually go? I can't remember.
About an hour.
Okay, cool. That's what I figured. All new here.
It depends how long Commissioner Smith talks.
If everybody talks softly, then it
Right.
might be quick.
Okay, moving along to the county attorney's report. County manager's report.
I have a couple of items today. First, I would like to remind everyone that county offices will be closed on November 11th in observance of Veterans Day. Also, we had a discussion back in October, actually at the October 7th County Commission meeting, it was actually during an annexation report. Leesburg was proposing an annexation of about 596 acres of land east of County Road 48 and south of the Turnpike. When the board, if I remember correctly, when the board was looking at the aerial, there was a lot of wetlands, and they had concern, and you had concerns about developing in that area. And the board directed staff to send a letter to Leesburg proposing that they incorporate possibly some rural conservation subdivision design standards to protect the open space as well as mitigate potential flooding concerns. As part, additionally, the letter included the language that we respectfully requested that Leesburg consider accepting County Road 48 as far as ownership and maintenance going forward, as they are annexed on both sides of 48 in the area of the development. The proposal was for them to accept County Road 48 from Highway 27 to the Sumter County line. The city has responded. They had concern about the annexation of County Road 48. They indicated that they had annexed property on 48 prior to signing the ISBA, which addresses and speaks to the cities taking roads once they annex above 50% of the frontage of a county road. So they said that we had already exceeded that amount by the time we signed the ISBA. They also referenced meetings that staff has had with them, a couple different occasions working towards a JPA with the city. We had discussed road transfer agreements and things that were eligible to transfer pursuant to the ISBA, and at no time was County Road 48 discussed. And that is true. We have not discussed County Road 48. So the city postponed the annexation hearing until November 10th. They're looking for clarification from the county as to our intent for the acceptance of the ownership and maintenance of County Road 48 before they make any decisions about the annexation going forward. So I wanted to bring this to you for consideration and discussion so we can provide feedback to the city.
So with that project that we said, hey, would you go back and look at this from a conservation design standpoint? What was the number of units that would have been added to 48 as a result of that development, if it went forward according to what they were reviewing, or roughly, or something? I'm just trying to understand the magnitude of the impacts.
Mike, do you recall? Oak Ridge? Okay, let me look and see if I can get that for you really quick.
Okay, all right. Well, I just feel like I think that's an important part to this because the assertion is that staff hadn't really been discussing 48, but then here we get a project, and it's like, well, maybe it should have been discussed before or thought about before, but it hadn't been, because there had already been so many annexations over there.
Wouldn't this fall under the same category as the road down in Claremont that we just approved? It's a collector road and really shouldn't be involved with the city. I mean, we just approved, what, $10 million for
Oh, you're talking about Hardwood Marsh.
Hardwood Marsh? I mean, this road here goes from the or goes from Sumter County all the way to Orange County.
It's
So
a
if we-
collector road,
Yeah.
along with 33, and I agree with you. If Heartwood Marsh is not going to go in the city, I don't understand how 48 and 33 could be forced onto the city, so.
What about a request, though, for assistance with funding and maintenance and that kind of thing? Like, we'll continue to maintain it, but we've got to come up with a plan on improvements that need to be done on that road. So just like
Is that what
Heartwood Marsh.
Claremont- Is that what Claremont's doing?
Well, they are, yeah, they did provide $1 million worth of.
Right.
Yeah.
They're utilities portion.
But it is a cost that's being incurred by them as part of an agreement for upgrades, right? So maybe that's the approach. It's not so much here, you take it, it's a collector road, it should be in the county road system, but maybe the real question is, how can we collaborate on improvements that need to be made?
How can they collaborate with the developer to come to the plate with some money?
So just to give you the answer, so this was approximately 600 acres off of County Road 48. The proposed city density is 1.5 dwelling units per acre.
And I think that's awful wet down in there too, if I'm not mistaken.
Really, really wet. That's why
We're
we
gonna have
thought
to
the
do clustering.
conservation design might
Right.
actually work. So maybe the response should be about how we continue to advocate for a conservation design in light of the natural resources and the water impacts and all that, but that we're looking for opportunities to collaborate on improvements that need to be made
For the road?
for the road.
Yeah, I mean, asking to collaborate, I think there's any harm in that.
And we are in discussions with them on road transfer agreements. We can add this as part of the discussion.
Okay. Good discussion, good points made. All right, any other things, County Manager?
Nothing else, thank you.
Commissioner Sabatini?
No report, thank you.
Commissioner Parks?
Yeah, just a couple things. Yesterday, we had a Wellness Way meeting. It was a roundtable for economic development, and that's very intentional in how that's being described in the purpose and the agenda of the meeting, because it is now, as maligned it has been at times, Wellness Way houses this, houses that. Nothing has changed in the plan. As it being one of the primary job centers that we are all trying to put in different locations around the county. That has been in plan for a while, and we are sticking to that plan. This was a meeting that is new again, as I said, in the agenda, the intent. There were meetings that were held in the past to be more on the tactical side of, who's putting in the stormwater, who's building this road, what easement's been done, has the power lines been run, that kind of stuff. This was a very good meeting that was held yesterday, so want to give just a big high compliment to Kathleen Dial, who organized the meeting along with LEAD. So LEAD, I will also compliment LEAD, was a very big part of this, as well as Richard Levy, who is, I think, perfect in the spot in what he's doing, working for both city and county. He's trustworthy on both sides. And Mike was there and did a great job as well, stressing the fact that, look, there's this big vision for Wellness Way. It's got high standards. Once you get past the commission for a site plan that's approved, because that still comes to us, they will help go become vertical as quickly as possible, which is what we want for economic development and, quite frankly, revenues that come into the county. So thank you, Mike, for doing that. Jennifer, thank you, the entire staff. There were several other staff members that were there as well. But I thought this was really important for you all to know, because this is getting back to and making sure that we're stressing the economic development side. This is a higher standard. There's going so far as actually now, it's happening, right now, not right at this moment, but it's currently happening where we are setting up, connecting landowners, people that are developers with people that have money and that want to invest and bring jobs, not houses, but want to bring jobs as the requirement for this. So those connections are being made right now, which is like when you start getting advanced and you start putting these job centers on the map and you see what's worked around the state of Florida in Lake Mary or wherever, Colonial Park or Babcock Ranch. Yeah, it's easy to build the houses and things like that, but it's when you start getting the people that are investing in Florida, investing in Lake County with money together with our economic development, that's when things happen quickly. So that's what that whole meeting was all about. So I really appreciate it. I thought it went well, and we're going to be doing those regularly. Now from here on out, I think the next one's in January, but those certainly could be something that I would encourage you all to attend at some point, and they can be advertised so that we could do that. I'm looking forward to picking those back up in January. The only other two things, we had the softball tournament on the Commissioners Cup this past weekend at the Mineola Athletic Complex. So I want to compliment Bobby and Brian out at the MAC. They put on a great, they just really maintained the facility. They went all out for us. That was to raise money for the sheriff's nonprofit fund, supporting like Deputy Link's family. The benefits come out of that event. It's the Commissioner's Cup because the Lake County Sheriff's Office plays the Claremont Police Department, and we always win, and we won again. I'll just say that. We beat the Claremont Police Department. Was only expecting to play 2 innings, but had to play the whole entire game, and then played against the Lake County Fire and Rescue the second game,
Did you get any hits?
and we beat them. I got the game ball for the first game.
All right.
But and I'm still a little sore, but it was a lot of fun.
You didn't break anything or?
No, there were no injuries.
minute.
So happy to report all people that work for the county, they're all not injured. So they're
Very important.
yeah, that was very important. And the fire and rescue were great. Those guys came out and they had fun and participated. And again, thank you to Sheriff Grinnell for putting that on, helping put that on as well. But important to say this again, the Commissioner's Cup is back with Lake County and the Lake County Sheriff's Office. So,
All right.
bragging rights over Claremont. The last thing is Montverde Day is this weekend on Saturday, so certainly come on out. There'll be lots of good food, just arts and crafts, that kind of stuff, art show, music. They always do a great job on that, so hopefully you can make it. All day Saturday.
All right, very
That's
good.
all I have to report.
Commissioner Smith.
I just have a couple of things. The first thing is I met with Mission Resort and talking to them about the noise ordinance that the town of Howey hasn't approved yet, but they're thinking about it and what we can do to assist them. Not us as the county, but just brainstorming ideas to help them out. Other than that, today is Election Day. It's Election Day for the city of Claremont, the city of Groveland, the city of Mascot, the city of Mount Verde, and the city of Tavares. So if you're from one of those locations, please make sure you go out and vote and get your voices heard. And then that's all I have right now.
No report.
No report. Well, I just want to say a few things about the response to the storm the other night and just thank our staff and Megan and the emergency management team, Public Works, Water Authority, everybody that stepped up to try to help out. Also want to give a shout out to Laser and Michael Tart and his group, Amy and Brandy. They have been great connecting with people that needed help directly on their property, getting drywall out. They were able to bring in some of the mission groups that help with that. Over at Spring Ridge Estates, they were there on Thursday night. I went over and met them, and they were able to coordinate getting people into hotel rooms as they literally were wheeling their suitcases and so forth, and their dogs and their children and their strollers out of their homes and leaving them behind. So that was really pretty horrific scene, but been monitoring that. I appreciate staff, reaching out to Eustis and offering whatever, support we could offer. But they, I think they're getting closer to a resolution. It's just really complicated with the situation with the bridge being under the HOA and the public infrastructure intertwined in that improvement. So I just want to emphasize again, and also want to point out, staff's doing a great job on Wolf Branch, and we're making progress. And so excited to get reports on how quickly that's going to be open, but I know that they're working as we speak. And the other thing I wanted to follow up on was the workshop that we have talked about. And my goal is that this workshop process would be as impactful as possible so that we could be given options that are easy to understand and easy for the public to understand. As far as, there's a lot of, we use in the legal field legalese, but in the engineering field, I don't know what you call it, but it's really easy to get confused. I mean, it's like, so somebody that can break down and help everyone understand what the different types of storms are and the number of hours and how, all of that works together and why certain types of storm events are the better ones to plan for, as far as having added capacity and protecting off-site properties and that type of thing. I just feel like it's really important for Lake County to lead on this issue and for us to engage our cities and ask them to be a part and at least participate, send staff or send elected officials, but to look at this being something that's looked at on a countywide basis. And it could be that in flat areas with good drained soils, it's just not an issue. These ponds work just fine and development really doesn't affect people offsite. But depending on the soils and the slopes and the surrounding conditions and the cumulative impacts of prior development, and the basin, the type of basin is, there are locations where changing the rules and enhancing the rules could really have, important, lasting, positive effects on our community.
Yeah, and the tough discussion there will be also impervious surface area on a lot by lot basis, because what happens is you say it's maxed out at like 50%, but over the years, people add sheds, they make their driveways larger, there's a lot more compaction, and it really isn't that 50% impervious anymore. It becomes.
So maybe you plug in another number that's the realistic number of what it will become.
Yeah.
When you do your calculations, maybe. So anyway, with that, again, I can't say thank you enough to everybody that's helped and that is continuing to help to address issues. I keep getting calls and emails and messages from people that, I've heard one the other day over at Dogwood Mountain that it was a woman who was 93 years old and nobody realized the back of her yard had completely washed out. So, things like that still issues are trickling in, and but I appreciate all the efforts of everyone working together and being diligent. And I have to say that, one of the worst feelings you have in the world as a commissioner is when you've tried to work on something to make something better, and you've done all that you can do, and you've asked staff to help, and they've done all they can do. And it's a bad feeling when you feel that, someone thinks you've let them down, and you have to kind of balance that, because I remember the day I went out and met with those folks out in Mount Plymouth. And I'm trying to remember who at Public Works was with me, but we were looking at it, trying to figure out what is the solution. And it literally, I don't know that there's a solution, because you have to have a place to move the water to. And maybe there is, but it would take more of a community effort, because it would require getting property in order to put water somewhere. So these are really difficult things, and the last thing I want to do is let people in Lake County down. And you all know that, we all work really hard to try to make everyone's lives better and try to sort of bring the community together, understanding that everybody's got, their own lives and their property and their interest, and we're trying to make it all work together as best as we can. So, All right, with that, do we recess or we re-adjourn? I can't remember. We adjourn, okay. All right, so we stand adjourned. Oh, I forgot the day. Can I unadjourn really quickly?
We'll just say today, knowing that Halloween was just this last Friday, today just happens to be National Candy Day.
All right.
Candy.
Eat all your leftover candy, or don't, maybe throw it away. Thank you.
All the pros say, oh, you know my own plan.